to our first topic on the day, the potential Jaylen Brown, Kevin Durant trade that's been floating out there. About a week ago, Woj reported that the Celtics were interested in trading for Kevin Durant. Shams came out later in the day stating that the Celtics offered Jaylen Brown a couple picks and Grant Williams. The Nets countered back with including Smart in the deal and a couple picks with Brown and Grant Williams. And the Celtics reportedly declined. Now, what are the pros and cons of this trade? I think that for the Nets part of it, I thought that would be a good addition, just having that base there. You have Brown there, who's an all-star player, young player in the league, 25 years old. You can still figure out what you're going to do with him potentially wise, contract-wise, adding Smart. So that's a good base there for a backcourt. And you've seen these two guys play, 5+ seasons together. That's a good duo to have. A good base there was Marcus Smart as a defensive player of the year. Jaylen Brown as a proven all-star guy that can get you buckets, 25 points a game. Able to step up in big clutch situations there. We saw in the NBA playoffs him able to step up in the NBA finals. So I can see it from Brooklyn's side. You get two guys that are proven, two young guys that can still have a lot in the tank and kind of give you some type of direction going forward with your franchise. Now for the Celtics to get Kevin Durant's going to fit seamlessly because he's 7 foot, probably the greatest offensive player of this generation here. A guy that's going to get you 30 every night. A guy that has improved his defense there. You're not going to have those scoring woes with him, especially with that defense behind him with Robert Williams still on the team, Al Horford, et cetera, et cetera. You got all those guys there. And especially playing next to Jason Tatum, the shooting, the scoring just goes up for the Celtics. So that's definitely something that's a need there. They need a guy that's a proven scorer and that can hold his own against the top other players in the league. Whereas Jaylen Brown is probably more a 1B secondary type player in the league. That's not a bad thing, but Kevin Durant's scoring and proven history has just shown his resume is just better than Jaylen Brown's at this point. Now looking at it from the cons of the trade here, for the Celtics, I think they lose too much in terms of depth. You lose Marcus Smart, you lose Grant Williams, who's a nice role player who's been a steady 3-and-D guy and has improved his game over the past couple of years. Marcus Smart filled that point guard role for you guys the past couple of years. Especially last season, he filled that point guard role. To lose that, along with Jaylen Brown, who's a borderline all-star, a guy that can score in a nice tandem that showed that he can score next to Tatum. I don't think you move all those young pieces for Kevin Durant. Now, if Kevin Durant was 30 years old, this deal probably would have been done. Let's just be honest. Kevin Durant's one of the best scorers in the world. Easily. That's not even a question. So if he was 30 years old without the injury history, easily, I think this trade gets done. And that's no knock to Jaylen Brown. Kevin Durant's just a more proven player, better player at that point. But at 34 years old, for Kevin Durant, who has played I wrote it down here, 90 games the past, 4 seasons in Brooklyn. He missed the first season to the Achilles injury, came back in the Olympics, played through that, came back through the season, played 35 games, and then played 55 games last year. So the depth there, the injury, the durability history isn't there recently for Kevin Durant. With those Achilles injuries, the knee injuries and stuff like that. And he's getting older. He's going to turn 35 soon. Is he going to age like LeBron or age like a Karl Malone like these other guys did that were aged gracefully and still able to be productive? He's going to be a big-time scorer. But his durability, is he going to be able to have that same impact on defense? I don't think you're willing to trade that and give up your youth and your depth for a guy that's aging and picks. Not to say that the Celtics wouldn't be in a position with Jason Tatum to still be good, but to give up that much real estate and give up all that youth and depth, for Kevin Durant, I just don't think that's a good move for the Boston Celtics at that point in time. I just don't think that's a good move to give up that much for Kevin Durant. And of course, the Nets are going to try to get all they can for Kevin Durant. With the Rudy Gobert trade, the potential Donovan Mitchell trade going out there, they see the assets that they're getting back. Utah's getting back. The Paul George trade that happened a couple years ago, the Kawhi Leonard trade that happened, all these picks and assets, the James Harden trade that they were even a part of. They have to recoup some of those assets that they've given up to get these guys like a James Harden, a Kyrie Irving, a Kevin Durant. So I can understand from the standpoint that they want a king's ransom, but in terms of the Celtics, is that ransom ready to give up when you just made the NBA Finals? When you've seen Jaylen Brown grow for the past 5, entering his 6th season, you've seen his growth and seen his potential. You've seen Marcus Smart's growth over his career, nearly a decade in the league. And Grant Williams coming along where who you're thinking about extending or whatever the case may be with him. Do you want to do that? Do you think Jaylen Brown's going to get better, which in every year of his career he has gotten better? His efficiency is there. He shoots a good shooting percentage from the field, 47%. So do you want to give that all up for Kevin Durant, who's a mercenary at this point, a scoring mercenary at this point, and question his durability? Are you willing to take that chance right now? I don't know about that. Maybe Jaylen Brown just has to improve his 3-point shooting, and he's been steady. He's at the career 37% 3-point shooter, 35% last year. Gives you good rebounding, has 3.5 assists. Maybe he can step it up in that category. But he's around 24, 23 points a game the past couple seasons. Do you want to give that up for Kevin Durant? I don't know. The Nets are in position to ask what they want, whatever they want. The Celtics, on the other hand, they're in a position to say no. I think that's on their side here. And reportedly, there's some reports saying they didn't offer him. Yes, they did offer him. Whatever the case may be, it's being talked about in the NBA media circle, scouts, analysts, et cetera, et cetera. And just looking on the outlook of it, if I'm the Celtics, I'm not doing it. I'm just not doing it. You were 2 games away from winning the NBA Finals. You're favored next year to come out the East, next to the Bucks, in my opinion. I think the Bucks, the only team I'm scared of in the East is the Milwaukee Bucks because of Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton coming back, and Drew Holiday. Those guys aren't going to go anywhere, especially with Giannis. So why would I panic right now and trade what I have? You still have Jaylen Brown under the contract for 2 years. I'll get into that in a moment. But I just feel like the Celtics trajectory, what they added, what they're building, I just don't think you give that up right now for Kevin Durant. If this was Kevin Durant, 28, 29, 30 years old, yes, I would do that. But 34-year-old Kevin Durant, not to say that he's not going to be a great player, that he's not going to score 30 points next year, that he's not going to be a perennial all-star still. Obviously one of the best players in the game. I'm not saying that, but I don't know if I do that right now. I just don't think that. Does it make sense for Boston to do that? In a way I can see that because you're just getting all that scoring and the impact and the power of Kevin Durant. But even in a short-term window, I know people are saying you only get so many cracks at it. You don't want to hoard all your talent or your picks or your moves that you can make in order to secure a championship. The Lakers did that, and look at the situation that they're in. They got Anthony Davis, gave up Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, all these guys, and won a championship. Yep, they won a championship. But now all the moves that they have to make to offload big salaries, the uncertainty with LeBron, that can potentially happen with the Celtics. The injury history with Kevin Durant. Potentially Jason Tatum wanting out. If things don't go well with this, is this Jason Tatum going to want to stay? I know there's a potential $300 million deal out there at the end of his contract or whatever the case may be that's potentially on the table, but we've seen guys turn down money in this league before and create their own path, go their own way. Is that something that's potentially on the table? So just looking at it from all those avenues, I don't know. I just wouldn't do it. But the Nets, I think they missed the boat on a certain point here where they could have had DeAndre and Miles Bridges and still had Kyrie Irving under the contract, or even if you wanted to trade him, you could have got some value for him, or whatever the case may be. I thought that would have been a good deal. You still would have been a decent team. You would have just had to figure out a way to build around Ayton and Miles Bridges. But I think you could have got a point guard in there and just figured it out. But I think they missed the boat there, especially with the timing of all these the trade requests from Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. I know I spoke about that on past podcasts, but I felt like if they were going to ask for this and these guys were going to have any leverage to go really move where they wanted to move, they would have done it before the draft, where a lot of teams had more assets to give up and figure out that way. I think they were trying to bank on Kyrie Irving getting a long-term deal and basically move along. But what happened was Kyrie Irving was, I believe, offered a 4-year deal, but with game clauses. He had to play a certain amount of games in order to get the max, or whatever the case may be. I don't know why he turned that down. Maybe to just control his own career, his own navigation. I don't know if he wanted a no trade clause. That's what I'm thinking. I think he wanted a no trade clause in there, and they wouldn't give it to him. So that's just an interesting way to look at it from the Nets' perspective, what moves they could have made if they had the time in order to make these moves. And now with the season upcoming, it's August right now. I know things are quiet right now, but September, October, things can pick up. Maybe they can get some guys that maybe want to get out. Maybe there's some more teams that want to get in the fray. A guy acts out of there. It's going to be interesting. But I just don't think the Nets have very, very, or if any, moves right now to make right now. I think they have to just bring those guys back. Say, hey, we got a good team here. Ben's coming in here, even though we don't know what his status is. We've seen him do the training camp videos and all that stuff and the workouts and all that stuff. So hopefully he's ready to go and see what they have on paper and see what they have the first couple months of the season. And the Nets are going to still, I believe the Nets are still going to be good. Ben Simmons, along with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, gives them a lot of spacing. They can play a small ball lineup with Ben Simmons there. So it's not all doom and gloom for the Nets, but they have to figure out something in what direction they're going to go. And see what they do. Now, looking at it from the Celtics perspective, Jaylen Brown here, he's going to get offered an extension. He's most likely going to decline it like most guys do. It just makes financial sense. We've heard this all the time. Kyrie Irving did that. All these other guys have done that in the league where they turn down that extension in order to get a bigger extension in the offseason. James Harden just did it. And I think it just makes more basketball sense. I think they're only going to be able to offer him 20% of his contract that they can go up on, the more money that they can offer him. And that's around $34 million. I think if he waits until the offseason, I think he gets, $40 million? That's a good deal for Jaylen Brown. That's 4 years, $40 million. So we'll see how that goes. If he didn't extend or didn't sign or whatever the case, I think that's $30 million he's leaving on the table. I don't think he's going to do that. It just makes sense. The timeline there. Malcolm Brogdon would have $23 million on the books in 2 years. I think the 24-25 season. Jason Tatum's going to be in his last year of his deal. Marcus Smart will have 17. White would have 18 million. So when Brown's eligible for that extension, the Celtics are going to be in position to sign him and Jason Tatum and have their two superstar duo locked up for a long time. I think that's basically what they want to do. I think that's what they should do. These guys are two guys that are young. Jaylen Brown's about to be 26. Jason Tatum, I think, is about to be 24 or somewhere age around there. And it's like, you guys have a duo that made the NBA Finals, has made conference finals, and you just rebuilt this team, retooled this team, I should say. And you guys are close. So trading Jaylen Brown for Kevin Durant, I wouldn't do it. I don't think that's the move that the Celtics need to do. I think they need to keep building this team around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and you add to them what they did in the offseason where they brought in Danilo Gallinari, Malcolm Brogdon. You're trying to tinker and try to figure out what puts you over the top. And I think the moves that the Celtics have made over the course of the last 2 months, I think that's definitely what the Celtics are in position to do. They just have to bring it. And I think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum got bitter taste in their mouth after that loss in the finals that happened a couple months ago. And I think they're trying to build and and work off of that. And hopefully these guys continue to stay together. And I hope the Celtics are able to keep them together and continue to build and win championships. As for the Nets, they just have to hope to hell that this team stays healthy. They're able to have a good start and able to build, and maybe somebody wants to go there. Maybe somebody, a buyout market, whatever the case may be, just to help their team stay afloat. I think they're going to be one of the top teams anyway, at least the top 5 seed in the East. And really be potentially be really good if they can just add to this roster. This roster has so much, and I think that's been the story of the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving Nets. This team has had so much potential with scoring, with offensive firepower, with so much talent, and it continues when they added Ben Simmons. We'll see what he can bring to the table, but how can they continue to evolve and be good? They gave up a lot of picks for James Harden, ended up getting Ben Simmons in that trade there for James Harden to Philly. So there's a lot of potential there with this, untapped potential, I should say, with the Brooklyn Nets. Let's see what they do going forward. But right now, it's really wait and see. If Kevin Durant comes back in and says, hey, I want out of here, you guys got to get me out of here. Kyrie Irving's most likely going to be dealt, even though he said he wants to stay. There's been reports that he's going to stay there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. We'll see how that goes.